I wasn't really too surprised. Clearly, it was a very uncomfortable moment for President Zelensky, but I thought in a way it was a helpful moment for Europeans because it provided clarity. Clarity on whether we want to stick jointly in what I would call a very unpredictable and probably even an abusive transatlantic relationship with somebody who behaved like a mafia boss, getting upset because an Ukrainian subordinate refused to actually kiss his ring and show gratitude. So it was a bad moment, but it was certainly a helpful moment to provide that sense of clarity. At least I hope so.
It's an explosive meeting yesterday. Is there a big bump in the rocky road to peace? A blip in an otherwise enduring fundamental relationship between the US and Europe? Or was it a final, decisive break in world order that we've known for the last 80-something years? Now, if you ask EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, it's definitely the latter. Posting last night on X, the EU official said, today it became clear that the free world needs a new leader. It's up to us, Europeans, to take this challenge. And the retired US Navy Admiral James Stavridis told CNN last night that he believes Trump's actions could herald the end of NATO.
I think we are headed possibly, I don't want to overstate this, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but we could be looking at the last days of NATO. And this is a gut issue about who are you going to support? A democracy that's under attack, or are you going to support a dictator in Moscow?
Now, someone who may have seen this coming possibly is my next guest, Stefanie Babst, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary General of NATO. Stefanie, well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Alex. It's good to be back.
We spoke, I think, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I asked you the question whether you thought Donald Trump or the US was still an ally of NATO. And, well, you said we can't look at them as an ally. And that was before what we saw happen in the Oval Office yesterday. Give me your reaction to what you saw yesterday.
Well, I wasn't really too surprised. Clearly, it was a very uncomfortable moment for President Zelensky, but I thought in a way it was a helpful moment for Europeans because it provided clarity. Clarity on whether we want to stick jointly in what I would call a very unpredictable and probably even an abusive transatlantic relationship with somebody who behaved like a mafia boss, getting upset because an Ukrainian subordinate refused to actually kiss his ring and show gratitude. So it was a bad moment, but it was certainly a helpful moment to provide that sense of clarity. At least I hope so.
What did you make of US Navy Admiral James Stavridis there? He said that we could be days away from seeing the end of NATO. Do you agree with that view?
Well, NATO is first and foremost a large bureaucracy, and it is an integrated military command structure. So we will not likely see NATO breaking up or breaking down, in a dramatic way in the days to come. But I warned against NATO becoming decomposed and paralyzed, and I fear that the effects of what we've seen, not only yesterday, but there is a series of activities, of statements, of events that led to this ambush yesterday that have really started to reduce trust amongst the allies and predictability. And yes, NATO is a place which is very much interest-driven, and member states around the table of the North Atlantic Council try to find converging points in their national interest, but the bloodlines of NATO are trust and predictability. And who wants to trust somebody sitting in Washington and siding so obviously with President Putin, using basically the Kremlin talking points and voting in the United Nations basically against the Ukraine? So, I mean, what I'm saying is there is a buildup that provides evidence that unfortunately, I think we have to now move on, hopefully in an orderly manner without the United States.
What do you think Donald Trump's plan is, Stephanie? He's after this rare earths minerals deal. It's not quite clear whether he seems to assume that if he gets that deal, by virtue of having to invest in Ukraine to get those minerals out of the ground, that will be taken as a sort of protection. He will have to protect his interests in Ukraine, therefore prevent any further incursion from Vladimir Putin. But at the same time, he doesn't want to give any of those guarantees to Ukraine that he would stop Vladimir Putin from trying to gain more than 20% of the ground that he already has taken from Ukraine. What do you think his plan is?
I mean, if he has a plan at all, then I think he has very much the Afghanistan template in mind, which brings us back to 2020 when he made this deal with the Taliban in Doha and basically set the conditions for a absolutely catastrophic withdrawal, leaving Afghanistan basically where it was some 20 years ago, namely back to the hands of the Taliban. And it strikes me that he must kind of like have this Doha deal somewhere in the back of his mind, hoping that it would be sufficient for Putin to refrain from exerting, aggressive force once he has actually sent, excuse my language, but Bobby the Builder teams in Ukraine. I mean, we've seen that in Afghanistan, the United States sent numerous thousands of security contractors in order to basically do what the armed forces of the United States didn't want to do any longer. Mm-hmm. And I think Trump had the same idea in mind, which is obviously nothing that resembles, a security guarantee somebody like Putin would take serious. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Stephanie, just before we go, what do you make of the comments that we've had today saying that actually Donald Trump seems to have played Keir Starmer the day before, that he took advantage and made Keir Starmer look all friendly and big pals with the UK, knowing full well that the following day he was going to give a hard time to President Zelensky? Of course, we don't know that, but that's what people have been sending us in here today. What did you make of that visit with Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, let's put it like this. I can understand that people, including Sir Keir Starmer and many, many others, have difficulties to let go of alleged certainties. And the transatlantic alliance and its stability and the special relationship between the UK and the US seem to have been such a certainty on which basis we have lived for so long, but it's gone. So, my message would really be to people attending the summit tomorrow, including to the British government, in all this mess, which seems a bit messy, focus on contingency planning, also in NATO. I don't think we should wait for Donald Trump to wake up tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, make a little bit more humble noises or give us some crumbs of affection, and then again turn sour. So this is nothing we can rely on. We need to press the Americans for an orderly, transparent, quote unquote, withdrawal. If they really want to withdraw from NATO, then we really need to make contingency planning. And clearly, we would need to support Ukraine. That's an obvious thing, but not letting NATO becoming paralyzed and decomposed, which will certainly not be in the UK's interest. And last point I really would like to make, of course, I'm very optimistic that the UK will move closer to the European Union, hopefully signing some type of arrangements on security and defense anytime soon. But we need Great Britain in the middle of our European, let's say, reloading effort.
Stefanie Babst, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary General of NATO, thank you for your time.